There you go, friends. Doc South here. And of course, in my life, I've had some rather interesting jobs. One, one was being a Boilermaker. I rather liked that job. We were, I was employed by a company called Complete Boiler Service. Complete Boiler Service. They worked out of Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Williamsport was a nice town, sort of in central Pennsylvania, north central Pennsylvania, in the mountains, almost into the mountains. Well, there were mountains around Williamsport for sure, but there were a lot of companies there that made boilers. Now, I didn't work for the factories that made the boilers, but I worked for a company that repaired the boilers out in the field. And what would happen is we'd come to work maybe on a Monday morning, knowing full well that we had a week of work at some boiler plant, some factory, some school, some church, some apartment building, out in Pennsylvania somewhere. And we'd be going for, like 4 nights. And with the idea that we would get up in the morning, we'd stay in that whatever town that boiler was in, and get up early in the morning, get our breakfast. We had an allowance for our meals and our board. It's for staying in a motel, and beer money was our own problem, and but we were to put in 8-hour day at the plant and do the best we could to get the boiler repaired and running in X amount of days. And actually, that was kind of a job I really enjoyed. It was a little tough leaving the wife at home, but she had neighbors all around her, so she was certainly safe. And the kids kept her company, but it was. She was always glad to see me get home. And it was, I gotta say, it was kind of fun. You'd go to a big old, maybe some place was a knitting mill, and they had 2 humongous boilers, maybe boilers the size of tractor trailers, making steam so that the yarn on whatever they were knitting wouldn't go funny. Evidently there's some, if you don't run the yarn right, if it doesn't get the right amount of moisture, it doesn't work well. I mean, I'm words to that effect. Or maybe you were working in a place where, frankly, they just plain needed the heat because it was winter. And one boiler, they had 2 boilers to heat. One was down. That's the one we're going to fix. And they're worried that if we don't get that one that's down fixed and the other one goes down, then what do they do? Because it's pretty darn cold up in Pensy, especially north central Pennsylvania in the winter. So yeah, it was step and fetch time, get her done, to quote Larry the Cable Guy. And I know our boss was always calling. They say you guys ain't going quite fast enough. What's the deal? I can hear him still. Charlie was his name. Well, Charlie, we're working on it. That boiler, I don't know, the front plate just wasn't quite, it was a little bit warped. We had to kind of push it into position to hold the tubes. He says, okay, you know what you're doing. He says, I'll be down there in a day or 2. Just do the best you can and try to placate the guy. If you see him somewhere coming, just work like the devil. And of course, I or one of the others would say, yeah, well, Charlie, we're working like dogs here. He says, okay, you folks just do the best you can, and I'll do what I can to keep them calm. He said, I know you guys, you wouldn't be dumb enough to cross me, so I'll take it on from your side, and do what I can to calm the guy down. But I will be down in a day or 2, so get some work done. Yes, sir. You can stay a little longer if you want. Just put it on the time card. Yes, sir. Yeah. And that'd be about it. And What I always liked about that job was the breakfasts in Pennsylvania were always so good. Yep. And I got to say, after work, the beers didn't taste too bad either, got to admit. And the motels were usually pretty cheap ones. We didn't, but again, it was long ago now. But we'd actually, it was a nice way to make a buck if you liked seeing the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, all those mountains and stuff. A little rough, like I said, on the family back home, but payday was nice. It was good pay for the time, for when we were doing that. So it worked out. It did work out, and it's in a way it's kind of fascinating work when you're all done and you got that boiler all buttoned up again, and you've run your tests on it, and the operating engineer goes up to it, the head boiler guy goes up, flicks on the fire and everything, and just watches that thing come up to steam pressure. He looks and he's looking for where the leak was before. He doesn't see any leak. Says, "Boy, you boys is all right. Okay, you got it. Okay, we'll take it from here. You folks have a good ride home." And that would be just what we do. And when we'd get home, the wife would always have a kiss, a hug, and well, heaven knows what else, and a very good meal, just waiting for us. It was, in a way, it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice, and kept down on the arguing. You know, when you're away from each other and then you get back together, yeah, not a whole lot of arguing going on, which was always kind of nice. And God knows it was pretty driving through Pennsy. The parts we were in were very rural and industrial, and it was actually kind of fun to check them out. I'll see you later. And boiler making, yeah, tough, hard work, but and a little bit dangerous. You had to be careful. You didn't want to go sailing out the window with a big load of steam chasing you. That's for sure. But you do it right. Everything worked out quite well, thank you. Anyway, I'll see you later. God bless. Bye now.